gonna laugh at you. I'll laugh at you. He made them sound like this.
Let me see whether the plug is on. The plug is here.
So we're back talking about seclusion again.
Okay.
And thinking through scenarios that might help to clarify. This is a really tricky area. There's some gray, there's some judgment involved, it sounds like, on behalf of the schools and how they sort of frame what a seclusion should look like, and maybe even the language used when you said, timeouts could be considered seclusion as well. So what about a case where there's multiple students in a classroom and, a student starts to escalate in his behavior. And so the staff sort of gets a little bit nervous about where the behavior is going to go, how much it's going to escalate. And they put a plan in place to sort of have everybody else exit, whether it be a code word or, a signal for one another where they say, okay, everybody else is going to exit the room and we're going to keep the student who's escalating in the room until he's safe. What do you think of that? Does that qualify as a seclusion, or what's your reaction?
Well, my first reaction is that I'm surprised that I would be surprised if that was the way that they had planned to handle the situation, because I always look at it as anybody, a child or an adult, kind of goes up the steps of escalation. So you kind of want to look for when it's starting, and you don't want to wait to that point, number one, before you have that big reaction. And number two, you want to collect data on why that's happening, because the other kids are losing out on their education, as will this child who, if they clear the room. I know teachers hate to do that. Okay, that's always what I hear, because that interrupts their process, their groove.
Yes.
But it sounds to me that if you are emptying the classroom and the child is in the room alone and is told that they cannot leave, then it's considered seclusion.
Okay.
But it's tricky if a teacher has to be in there to keep them safe.
Right.
It's this is a complicated question.
Right.
But that's when you want to have a meeting with the school.
Yeah.
And so then what if you leave the meeting and you're like, this still doesn't feel right.
Right.
Okay. So then you might want to ask somebody like myself more about this and give them the very specific details. And at that point, if I couldn't answer, I would say you go to an attorney or somebody like Disability Rights Maine, who really get the law behind what we're talking about.
Okay.
I do, but I'm not an attorney. And I tell people that all the time. I'm not practicing law, but I'm reading it as an advocate.
Yeah.
So, but it is complicated, and what you're talking about doesn't sound like a good situation.
Right. It is complicated, and I think that there are many times where, especially in life skill programs, where they independently operate without a whole lot of oversight from maybe other superiors. And so my concern would be that scenarios like the one I just described be used as strategies too frequently, as opposed to a true intervention like they're supposed to be.
And it's supposed to be, restraint or seclusion is only supposed to be used in an emergency when either that child is acting unsafe to themselves or to others. So you're talking about planning for an emergency.
That's a great clarification, what you just said, because even in my own brain, I don't think it's been that clear to me. It's in the event of an emergency. It's not a preventative. It's not, the behavior is not quite where I'd like to see it. It's an emergency. So
you can't plan for an emergency.
So you can't plan for it.
You can plan for challenging behavior.
Right.
and
Right.
you could study the challenging behavior.
Right.
And you can collaborate with the team. Where can we prevent it from getting to that step of escalation that we have to clear the room? Because that's the last thing you would want to happen. And when we worked on Chapter 33, that was one of the biggest things they were so worried that they would have to do, because they didn't want to have to do that.
Sure.
But
Okay.
sometimes you have to do that to keep everybody safe. And I know that's everybody's intention.